Welcome back to Rafting Magazine. Today on the show we have a pretty fired up boater from Colorado, Joel Wenblad. So Joel, welcome.
I'm good.
And if you guys haven't been following him, I will drop his Instagram so you can check him out. Make sure go over there, send him some love, and see all the crazy stuff he's getting up to. But Joel, tell us about some of the stuff in your area, what you've been running, what you've been fired up, and tell us about this project, man.
The area is good, and we're lucky to live here because we have a lot of boating options, within 10 miles of the house, and then even more, well within a tank of gas from here. And but we're on the Eagle River here in Avon, Colorado, and I live right on the section called Dowd Chute, which is fun, pretty manageable, class 3-4 section, good for almost everybody, and it's raging right now. I think we're peaking. Upstream of that is Gilman Gorge, which we've been rafting more and more. It hadn't been rafted much. It's got a lot of old mining debris in it, but it's getting cleaner each year with some effort from the boaters. And we got Yule Creek that runs through Vail, and that's where they have the GoPro games and nice weekly race series when things are normal. And you can raft all the way down to Eagle, Colorado. It's a good stretch of river we usually do 2, 7, or 14 miles, depending on what we're in the mood for on the Eagle.
So I saw a photo, and this is kind of what helped to spur this conversation on about Yule Creek. So tell me about that.
Yule Creek is up just outside of Marble, Colorado, and it's up there in the headwaters of the Crystal River, which is another sweet river with several good sections of rafting. And it's high up in the drainage. I don't think it's been rafted before, and Yule Creek has been kind of a daydream of mine since I moved to Colorado and bought my Colorado Rivers and Creeks 2, which I lost. And now everybody pretty much uses whitewater, the Southern Rockies. But I was a kayaker then in 2011 when I moved here, and I always thought I'd kayak it when I got good enough, and I quit kayaking, and just a slow road in the raft to get here. But the more we went and hiked around up there, the more we thought it seemed possible. And Casey Vandenbroek, a great friend of mine, a really great boater, that's more of his local zone. And, he thought this was the year that it would be right. And we just started, kind of always knew we hiked around with the yaw boys in there last year, and it was way too high. And so we just kind of thought, this year we'd hike it and keep hiking it till it seemed right. And we did. It's called Lower Yule Creek. We didn't do all of it. We kind of set out to do the bottom 2 rapids, just run those 2. And when we got there, which we scouted the whole thing before, but we got there and it was low. We thought, well, let's walk upstream further and see what might be runnable. And so in our mind, what I think was, and I'm not an expert on it, but I think we hiked up from the last rapid. We went up 12 rapids, put the boat in.
How many miles is that? Like how far?
Half a mile.
Okay.
Half a mile, and just little pools the size of your kitchen table in between drops, just all gradient. But it's real low, and it's slidey, a lot of slides. So we did some low water slides and decided it's too low. We ran 8 rapids. We ghost boated the next 2, which are called ball check and wall check. And if you run one, you're running both. And I don't know. I think that series might be, I don't know if it's in my wheelhouse or not, but I don't think I have a strong desire to do it. But you never know. There's a time when I never thought I'd run the bottom 2 either. And so what we did was run those 8. We sent the boat over for research over ball check and wall check, and it's probably doable if you got the guts, but it would be high consequence. And we had a couple guys catch the boat below that. We took some trusted friends in for safety and video, of course, and we tied it there, and we left it there on a Thursday, and we went back on Monday and ran the bottom 2. And those are the 2 that you saw in the picture.
So, okay, so it's kind of a 2-parter to get into this.
Really, the whole thing, well, if you count the 2 days we hiked it last year and the days we went in this year, I'd call it more of a 5 day thing. You know, a lot of hiking. The one day of pushing all the gear in a wheelbarrow straight uphill.
So I really want to dive into like kind of the mentality behind this when we're talking. And so you got the footage coming out. I'm really looking forward to seeing like how your run went. I saw one photo of you guys dropping in there, and I was like, "Oh my god, those dudes are running some crazy stuff." But before we dive into it, because I've been following you for a little while, watching you boat and watching you develop, and it's been really cool seeing you. What made you come over to the dark side? I mean, like,
to rafting.
yeah.
So what got me into whitewater was rafting. Became a raft guide in 2010 on the Ocoee River in East Tennessee, which is a place that I love dearly. And I learned to kayak there too. And after my second season there, me and three other like-minded dirtbags packed everything that we owned into one Toyota 4Runner. We moved to Colorado just to endure the winter, never skied, didn't really want to. And that we just did it so that when February, March rolled around, we would be right here to go check out some rivers and pick one and guide on it. And so I kept kayaking, doing a little safety boating and just rafting and kayaking a lot on the Arkansas River here in Colorado, which was great. But I kind of just lost my love for kayaking. I had a couple swims that weren't good. I split my head open once, and it was fun some days, but I wasn't enjoying it when I pushed myself anymore. And plus, it is, for someone who grew up in the Southeast, it's just the water is cold beyond belief here.
Yeah.
You know, to do something like go hit 50 rolls on an easy stretch of river and get tuned up for the season, I wasn't enjoying that either. And you start hearing about like tinnitus or whatever that's called, where the cold water makes your ears go crazy, and it's like lifelong headaches and misery. And I don't know, I just lost my stoke. So to me, rafting's always been, I think because I started rafting and kayaking together, I never really saw one as the dark side or the other. I just always loved rafting more.
That's funny that because some people are like, oh, I'll never kayak, I'll never raft. You know, people are hardcore into stuff, and it's funny. Like, how old are you?
I'm 34. Recently turned 34.
Nice. Well, happy birthday, man. I missed your birthday, but so it's funny because I talk to a lot of guys in their 30s, and they're all making the switch to rafting, and it's like, I don't know. I kind of think it's a little easier on your body in some ways, but you know, like you said, it's funny. You just want to spend a little bit more time with people, or you know, paddle with your good buddies and things like that. I mean,
it's not. So I want some people I've met. I know exactly the type you're talking about. Some people are more extreme or galvanized to one side or the other. And an old friend of mine who taught me to kayak used to say, "Those who kayak do." And some, you know how the saying goes, those who can do it, and those who can't teach it, or I forget how the cliche goes. But, you know, I think and when I started wanting to, some people asked me, you know, why don't you just canoe? You look like you're trying to paddle a canoe, but it's a raft. And for me, rafting, like you said, is shareable. You know, you can get more people involved, and even in a play boat, like the kind you had featured in a recent article, even then in a canoe or a kayak, you know, if you want to go with one other person, you need another boat for that.
mm-hmm.
2-person canoe or a 2-person kayak, which is crazy to me. But rafting, you know, you can R1 and R2 in the same boat. I guess you could R3 or R4 mini max. I don't really like to, but rafting is just a more shareable experience, and I don't know if it's more sustainable or not on your body, but yeah, I don't know. I just found it to be better. And if you buy a boat and you keep that boat, kayaks just almost seem like disposable the way people go through them now. And so I feel attached to my boats. And
You know what's funny, man, is like I talk to a lot of people about this, and one of the things I keep coming up with is the fact that when you raft, you can get another person, like you said, and it's shareable. And when you do that, you can encourage people to go on harder stuff. Like, there's commercial clients who run Gore Canyon and Cherry Creek and the Upper Gauley, and it's like, those are all hard Class 5 runs. And those people aren't guides. A lot of people who go on that are arguably, they're boaters because they've been obviously on a couple river sections before, but they're fired up and they want to go run some hard stuff. And the cool thing is like, you bring a friend and you teach that friend how to boat, and then you start encouraging them to get in their own boat, then all of a sudden, instead of 2 people on the water, you can get 4 people on the water. It's like a total, I don't know, I think it helps to progress people through the sport and get more people in.
I think, yeah, I agree 100%. And I would add that, um, and what I think we call it class fun. You don't have to run the NAR to enjoy rafting your whole life or anything close to it. If you want to, it's great. But I just think it's good to get other people in the sport. Um, everybody's cooped up at home right now. I feel like the whole world could use a raft trip, and it's good to get more people involved for their sake. But I feel like it's good to get more people involved for my sake because there's more river users. We have a better voice to protect them, and if also running the NAR, man, it's lonely at the put in most of the time at Gore Canyon or Cherry Creek, and it's if you want to be safe, you need a couple other boats out there, and so I've always thought of it as good to share it with people for them, and it's good to share it with people for me too. If I can make a few more boaters or meet a few more boaters, then that's going to help me get more days on the water too.
Oh, for sure, man. So we're kind of diving into like the mentality of boating, and you know, because of the Yule run that you did, I really want to kind of dig into, and I'm always curious about picking people's brains about Class 5 boating, and it's like kayaking's really sexy. Like, dudes are lighting themselves on fire, dropping off of waterfalls. I mean, they get a lot of crap for that. I mean, not going to mention names, but they're always like, it's a little broy, and I find rafting is a little less broy. It's like the nerds or the rafters. But it's cool to be a nerd now. So I'm happy to be in that group. But when we're talking about Class 5, there's not a lot of people in the U.S. that are running this kind of stuff, right? Like there's like a pocket of people in Colorado with you guys. Some of us out on the West Coast, like there's a pocket in California, a pocket like up in the Pacific Northwest. Some guys back east that are doing stuff, but we're kind of the oddballs, right? Like, so why? Like, I want to understand like why you're doing this. Like, what's the point for you? Like,
I would say kind of the point for me, which is a point of rafting in general, and um, you know, I might be a kind of have an addictive personality and tend to want more and more. So I think part of the Class 5 for me is just chasing that adrenaline high, and and part of it is too that when you flip through the guidebook and the majestic, not often seen places, the really pretty gorges and the high altitude runs, the neat runs. I guess I'm attracted to the allure. To me, a lot of the Class 5 runs they're just not seen. They're rare. They're like the unicorn runs of the rivers, and so I'm attracted to that. But just overall, what got me into rafting was that I used to never look for anything beyond the same Middle Ocoee run that we did every day. It was Class 3, and that was great. It was all I thought I'd ever need, and then I want to run the upper, and then I want to go run the Chioa, and then I want to go do the Golly. And so I think naturally I'm curious, and I like it. I like the adrenaline as well. So selfishly chasing a good time, I think that would be my answer. I don't know. I saw some, questions of like, what is the point of pushing yourself? And I think that it's kind of suited. That's what I need to be a functioning person every day in society. Is I need to go out and check myself in nature and have adventures.
So I read this article about extreme athletes, and I'm curious. There's two things that they brought up in this article, and the first one that they said about extreme athletes and boaters, and kayakers are lumped into that, but naturally, they didn't think about rafters. So gotta give them some crap for that. But the thing about extreme athletes is that we tend to have two strong personality traits, and one is like hyper aggression, and not in a malicious way. What they said was it's like you're when boys are just wrestling and playing rough, it's kind of like that. We're just playing rough kind of thing. So it's not like you're angry. You don't want to attack people, but you have well, I'm not saying you do, but this article was basically saying that people who are in these sports have this push to do things, and it's really, really like we have a really strong drive to get after something. And that also plays into the second thing, which is competitiveness. And I'm just curious, like, how do you think of your competitiveness, and your do you think those are traits that ascribe to you, or what are your thoughts?
Well, to the credit of the author of that article, which maybe you could send me because I would like to read it, and I don't think I have. But I would say that they got me on that one. I used to love football, and I got my longest love in sports was boxing as a young kid, and I was the kind of kid that I didn't even really want to sign up for boxing. My dad took me there and was like, you need to get this out of your system. I just couldn't keep from bouncing off the walls every day. And so I probably would give him that one. And I feel like I used to be competitive, but now I just feel like I'm competing. I don't feel competitive anymore. I don't feel any different after running Yule Creek than I did before. I do love the gore race. I like to raft race. So that's, if I don't want to admit it, I probably still am competitive, but I guess I see rafting the more I R1 and R2, and I just think if we're kind of, and I bet when I kayaked, I bet kayakers would relate to this. And I feel like I'm just competing against myself. And the older I get, I feel like I have maybe a little less drive every year to huck it, and more willingness to chill. And that's kind of I guess a big, not a big like sudden change, but that's something that's probably changing about me. So I don't know. I would have to say, yeah, I probably am suffer from bouts of aggression. Like you said, not in a malicious way. I've always liked sports, where you get a butt slap at the end or a high five or whatever, but yeah. And I do love a good raft race. So probably guilty.
It's funny, because I'm always really interested in the mind of female boaters too, and I don't think that this is just as guys we get a lot of crap for having a ton of bravado on the river, and we're always trying to push through things, and like big water boating, we just want to slam through giant waves and giant holes, and female boaters tend to do a lot more finesse on the water. But I think these personality traits are interesting because I don't feel like they're necessarily like a male boater, female boater sort of thing. I think people kind of all have them.
I would agree with that absolutely. And some of the very best boaters that I know in rafting or in kayaking are women, and a couple. A good friend of mine is Hattie, and she puts on the gore race, and her husband owns a raft shop there on Clear Creek. And I don't want to speak for her, but I know that she likes a good bicycle race, and she likes racing. She puts on the gore race, and I've never seen her be malicious in any way, shape, or form, but I wouldn't mess with her, you know. She's pretty stout. I know a lot of, like you said, I agree wholeheartedly. I know Jessie Kelly is another great female rafter that I know and have just nothing but respect for. And yeah, I've had some good talks with Jessie about the mental makeup of rafters and what makes us huck. And she had some really good things to say about it too.
Yeah, I gotta have her on and chat with her a little bit about that. And it's funny because like I was saying, like the aggression. People think like I think people confuse anger and aggression a lot. Like you're angry about something, but it's like talking to you, you're like super laid back right now. Like I don't feel like you're like an angry person. I just feel like I see the stuff you run and you just get after it. And it's like I feel like there's something burning and driving you. So I'm fascinated by that. Like I just want to know like what that's all about.
I would attribute to the river, maybe when I was younger, maybe it was like more anger mixed in, but I started rafting on a full-time basis when I was 23, and it was really good for me. Just like we're talking about, I still have plenty of aggression. I'm fighting the urge to lean all the way into this computer. I don't feel angry anymore like I did when I was younger, and I think that the river life was a huge contributing factor to finding some peace and mellowing out. And yeah, I'm happy. I think I'm happy. I love talking to people about boating is probably when I'm the happiest.
So, you kind of touched on something that I think is really important, and I talked to a lot of. So I used to own a rafting company, and I talked to a lot of veterans that would come out, and a lot of police, firefighters. I used to take a lot of those people, and it was crazy because I had a trip one time where this guy, he literally flew back from Afghanistan that morning. He just landed in the States, and he had just gotten out of the hospital because his Humvee got blown up 3 days before. He was an EOD tech, and an IED blew it up, and he gets on the river, and he's like, they're all jacked up, they're all like ready to go, and I'm like, what kind of trip do you guys want? And they're like, one of them's like, dude, we want to have some fun, and then we want to have some time to just mellow out. Can you arrange that? And then, at the end of the trip, these guys, like, we're doing this rock jump, and they're all fired up, and at one point I'm like, hey, you guys just want to kick it here for a little bit, watch some rafts go through? And they're like, yeah, that'd be great. And all of these dudes fall asleep. They're just like, it's so peaceful. One guy wakes up like an hour later. I just let him sleep. I was like, whatever, it's fine, the water's gonna come down, but it's okay. And they wake up, and one guy's like, that's the best nap I have had in like 2 years, man. And it was weird because I got this boat full of like hardcore dudes who have been getting blown up in foreign wars, and they're just like, man, I feel so at peace right now. I feel so good. And what do you think it is about the river that does that?
This is where it's going to go above my pay grade. I'm just an old redneck guy, but I do. I want to say it's called Into the Blue. I have a book in here that I haven't read yet about that. And I know that there are a lot of people that study the effects on your brain of being around water. Mm-hmm. And some people like the ocean, which some people like the river, some people like the lake. But I don't know the science, but I think that being around water, and to me, just from a redneck point of view, it makes sense right off the bat. We're mostly made of water, right? Majority of water here, water molecules. And I think being around it puts us on the level, it gets us, I don't know, maybe gets us in tune with the universe, or just, I don't know what the effect is, but I know that it sure has been a good effect to me. And I think it affects a lot of people in a positive way. It's whatever it does to your brain, it's good.
Yeah. I feel like it's really primal, it's like going back to your origin or like your creation. Like you said, we're mostly water. It's kind of metaphysical in a weird way. And, it's funny because my dad, he was an old hunting guide in Wyoming and total redneck hillbilly from the sticks. I mean, he grew up on a farm and stuff. And I'll never forget it because, one of the biggest troubles in society right now is that everybody's against each other and everybody's like at each other's throats. And it was funny because I saw my dad and he was the biggest conservative hillbilly redneck. He would take me out shooting and fishing, and then he would see all this trash and he would start swearing and he's like, God damn city people. And he'd always blame it on this like straw man city people. But there are people who don't respect nature that, whether they're rednecks from the sticks or, whether they're folks who don't get out in nature and they're from cities or whatnot. I mean, there's all those people around. But my dad would grab a bag of trash, he would hand me one, and he'd be like, you need to clean up this beach. And we'd go around, pick up all the cans, pick up all the lures, pick up all that stuff. And it was crazy to me because my dad was so against people like the Sierra Club, and he would just call them crazy hippies. But then he would go and do the exact things that they were advocating for in the first place. And I'm like, so I guess my dad taught me to respect nature, but having that, it just really like brought me closer to nature, I guess. And I can really relate with what you're saying, but I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and dig more into like your thoughts and I just want to know like what it's like when you're being kind of, I would definitely describe you as an extreme athlete. So what?
Thanks. It's very flattering.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's true. You're running hard stuff all the time, man. Like you're I got to give you a lot of respect for throwing yourself down Yule Creek and what it took. And I mean, just looking at the pictures, like lining up to the lip of that thing, you said it brings you peace, but like, do you still feel that peace and that, like inner calm, I guess, when you're lining up for a huge drop, like on Yule Creek?
No. And I would say that Yule, that's big, and that's not ever going to be like my daily diet. That was a special occasion kind of a deal, and not on good years when you're lucky, maybe you have a run where you stepped it up. You took it to a new level, and Yule, that rapid, at least for me, was a big vertical. I feel like I'm pretty comfortable under 30 feet. I have a lot of repetitions on that size of stuff. But when that bigger stuff, no, it didn't feel peaceful or calm at all, really, at the lip of it. Now, there was some wood in there that we couldn't see. We're scouting from river right. Our line was river left. So there were some surprises at the lip there. And it was not a peaceful, easy feeling, but I feel peaceful on the river still, and I think that Yule's kind of an exception. But here at home, when we run Gilman, yeah, definitely at the top of Slurry Pipe or Fall Creek Falls, the stuff that is part of the daily diet, you do feel peace and calmness. Maybe not the first time I ran it. The first time I ran Gore Canyon, I was fired up and not calm. But those places, they become more normal. And yeah, I think, if you are going to swim or have a crazy experience, being calm when it starts out is good. You kind of, I've swam enough to know that just because I'm about to take a good risk of swimming, it's really no reason to. I just need to keep doing what I'm doing and be calm. And that's, I think, one of probably the very best things about rafting and pushing yourself. I'm not saying everyone needs to go huck it off a big slide or whatever, but just pushing yourself, whether it's getting out your 5th day in a row or, training before the season, which is an unnecessary evil kind of, and pushing it on a class 3 run. That's how you get better at kayaking or rafting. I think anything is pushing yourself on a run where you kind of know it's going to happen. I think that's a very good thing for human beings in life. I feel like I could argue with someone that I disagreed with on the internet and not get emotional about it because I'm used to keeping myself calm. Or, I just feel like that practice of keeping you cool, breathing, staying peaceful, that's a good thing. That, like you said, we're very divided and uptight right now. And I think rafting would help everyone with that.
Yeah, it kind of brings people together. It was interesting. You mentioned like the breathing and keeping yourself calm, because I was reading a book about and I did a video on this a while back about the 4-4-4 technique, and I know a lot of I think it was a book by a former Navy SEAL. He was talking about breathing in, holding it, or you do 4 seconds breathing in. Like 4 seconds inhaling, and then hold it for 4 seconds, and then you release it for 4 seconds, and then you do that 4 times in a row. And what that does is it basically signals to your body, even these guys who are like in crazy firefights and they got explosions going off all over the place, they can bring themselves down to a state where it's not fight or flight, and they can go, okay, I can think clearly now. And it's crazy because I've used this technique on runs where I'm like so scared I'm almost crapping my pants, and I had some of that last year where I was like, I totally lost it last year on a run, and it was like probably one of the tougher experiences of my life. But I one of the only ways I could calm myself down through most of it was just doing that breathing technique and trying to bring myself back down. So it was a really interesting sort of thing, like finding that peace and finding like, even before like a giant rapid or something like that. What do you do when you're starting to get into it? Like when you're staring at the lip and you're like, man, should I be doing this? Like, this is big.
Well, ideally for me, by the time you're up to the lip, I'm done deliberating by then whether or not I should be doing it. I should definitely be doing it, and if to me, if I'm not stoked on doing it, then I don't do it. I don't want to go out there and be regretful or unsure. So I try and just go with my feeling, if I'm feeling it, then I'll do it. And there's some stuff that I have been on, scouting, and like, man, I want to do it. I came here to do it, but it doesn't feel good. I'm not going to do it, So I think it's ideal if you're rolling up to the lip that you want to be there, and and that you have a pod that you can envision. For me, if I just can't see it going well, I don't want to do that either, So hopefully for me, when I'm rolling up to the lip, I'm confident. I'm looking forward to it. And if I was still nervous, which I think is probably good for you, but breathing, what you got to do. I think that's first and foremost. Like you said, it's a good way to send a signal to your brain. We're going to do that thing that we do now. And again, if, I try to envision the best, but prepare for the worst. If I'm about to swim, then what better could I be doing right before that than breathe a little extra.
Mm-hmm.
So I just try and breathe. And, my friend Josh Thompson he's a firefighter down in Denver, and he's really good about that. And my friend Tony Glassman, is have their little mantras, and just before you get out there and do it, I think you should feel good about it and see a positive outcome, and also be prepared. Class 5 boating, a big part of that to me is that it's unpredictable and irregular. It doesn't always go how you planned it. And if it did always go how you planned it wouldn't be class 5.
It's true.
I don't agree with the school of thought, which I've heard recently since I ran Yule, that oh, if you can't clean up the line, you shouldn't do it, or you got to know you're going to succeed. You don't got to know you're going to succeed, or you wouldn't. It's not a class 5 if you know you're going to go stomp it every time. I don't think, and I just think you should be able to see yourself succeeding. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but yeah, that's it for me. Breathe, see the line.
That's an interesting like philosophical thing. Like about you got to know it's gonna go well every time. Was that kind of the gist of it, or maybe you could?
That was kind of the gist of it. If you don't know you got it, you shouldn't be doing it. If you gotta, I showed some of the drone footage to some people, and they said, "Oh man, you're hanging on there, and you let go of your paddle there, right there," and it's like, well, man, it sure seemed like to me 60 feet off the ground that I should hang on and stay in the boat more than I should hang on to my paddle and exit the boat. So I don't feel like I made a mistake, but I did. But you're not going to win them all, or at least I'm not. So
it's funny, man, because I'm not laughing at you with that. It's I gotta. I'll go out and run some stuff that's steeper, and when I post photos and video, I ran Pitfalls in California. It's like 35 feet or something like that. It was funny that it was funny that what you mentioned about the 30 foot, your kind of 30 foot limit there, where you're like, I forget what you said about it, but I always feel like anything over 30 feet is just going to hurt in a raft, like.
Yeah.
And there's no two ways about it. It's like you're gonna end up at the bottom with so much force, like, and that raft is just gonna stop most of the time. But I was running Pitfalls, and one thing I do is I take my paddle and I'll let go of my T-grip and put the paddle behind my butt, so essentially when it hits the water, the blade's sticking straight back out like along the boat, so the water just crosses or basically runs across the blade. And then it dives in, so the paddle's not wrenching off in weird ways, or it doesn't. And I get a ton of crap for that. Everybody is like, "Hold on to your T-grip, hold on to your T-grip," and I'm like, I feel like when I'm dropping 30 plus feet, like holding on to my T-grip is the least of my worries. Like hanging on to, I don't want to lose contact with the boat, man. Like,
I get it, and hey, I wish I would style everything and just have super clean lines all the time and always do that. But that's not, to me, and I love raft guiding. I'm not harshing anybody's mellow, but when you start hucking big stuff, yeah, you're gonna, or even if it's not a big drop, maybe it's just a big, tough rapid, I have some clean gore lines where I style it. Sometimes there's some high siding involved and crawling around the boat, and to me, that's just what it is. I've never clobbered anybody with my T-grip. I try not to turn loose of it, but sometimes I do. And, like, do I strive to always look cool when I go over the drops? Yeah, it'd be nice. But to me, it's way more important to stay in the boat, have a controlled landing. I credit the guys up in the Northwest, Jeff Compton and Dan McCain and Robert Delgado and Aaron Erdrich is up there now. I don't think that's where he started, but the guys that kind of, to me, pioneered the big drops in rafting, at least that's who brought it to my attention. If you can, like a straight vertical drop of 30 feet is probably going to hurt a little, but if you can get some slidiness to it, or maybe some angle to the drop, sometimes it goes pretty smooth.
yeah.
Especially like you said, if you can lean back, I think it might be kind of a raft guide mentality that you need to be lurched out on the side of your tube with your blade in the water. But like on Yule Creek, that's just not possible. It's big slides. There's part of the top of that drop that were 4 inches deep, maybe 2 inches deep. It's just rock. You're not going to do a lot. And controlling, probably from your research into play boats recently, little boats, which is what we're running out here. And this micro stuff is, you can change the change the game, change the outcome of your run just by moving your body weight.
Yeah, you had that good video the other day where you just like you moved to the left and you just shot out of the way of that tree. That was
It's what it is, man. And then high siding, surfing out of holes, especially R1 and Aaron Erdrich taught me some of this is like sometimes better than to get yourself out of a hole you're dropping into, better than having that. He's like, man, I weigh 240. I can keep my blade in the water, but if I throw my weight to the front of the raft, that's a lot bigger difference.
yeah.
So I think it's, it's ideal a lot of times if you can keep your blade in the water and stuff. But sometimes when you're starting to battle physics, you just got to move around. And I hope I never hit anybody in the teeth with my T-grip. It's like an old river tale, hear it all the time. It hasn't happened yet, knock on wood. And sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, it's true, man. Like it's true. There's something about that mentality that I really love about rafting. People, it's like, do you ever see Heartbreak Ridge? You ever see that movie with Clint Eastwood?
No,
So he's like this old crusty like Marine gunnery sergeant named Gunny Highway, and he's like in his total squinty-eyed Clint Eastwood thing. He's like, your Marines improvise, adapt, overcome, and that stuck with me for a long time in rafting because I was like, that's really what you got to do as a raft guide. You pretty much have to improvise, adapt, and overcome like everything. It's, I feel like while there's principles that we're using, I mean, when you start pushing your boating skills, you're just improvising the whole time. You're just making it up as you go along half the time, it feels like.
absolutely.
And it's it's a funny philosophy, but one of the last things I wanted to touch on was have you ever seen the movie Meru with Conrad Anker and Jimmy Chin? It's a climbing movie.
No, I haven't.
If you get the chance, it's a good movie to check out because we were talking before about competitiveness, and one of the things that was interesting with like Conrad and Jimmy when they're going out there is Conrad started talking about this other guy named Yule Steck, and he was like a super famous European climber. And Conrad says he felt like he had a competitive streak with Yule because Yule was always like trying to do a bunch of stuff that Conrad was doing, and Conrad tried to get the first ascent of this mountain called Meru, this flake of it, and he ended up getting skunked on the first trip, and then Yule went out there, and then he called Conrad and was like, hey man, what should I do? And Conrad goes, well, he says, well, I felt really competitive with Yule, but I didn't want to see like anything bad happen to Yule, so I just told him what was up and what it was all about. And it was really interesting to me because it's like this fascinating idea between these two climbers who are like the top of their game, some of the best climbers in the world, and they feel super competitive with each other. And it's like, I'll be honest, man, like when I saw those photos of you running Yule Creek, I was like, damn, I really, like, I wish I was out there. So, it's just kind of like, it's not like I feel like competitive with you in that regard, but part of me is like, damn, he got the first ascent. I'm like, I got to step up my game. Like, that's kind of how I felt, just, from a athlete to athlete kind of standpoint. But, I don't know. Do you ever feel like that when you see someone get a first ascent or they're running something? You're like, damn, I wish I was there.
For me, honest truth, and like I said, I can't deny some competitive nature. I like good raft race. A lot of my friends are in the raft race, and I want to win.
Yeah,
for sure. No ifs, ands, or buts. But when I see Mike Williams is a someone I look up to in rafting, and like I said, those guys up in the Northwest, Aaron, Erdrich, Jeff, Dan, when they're hitting big sends, it definitely makes me want to do it too, but not not like I'm not jealous or anything. I want to go. I want to do it, and seeing other people do it is absolutely gets you stoked to do it. Gets me stoked to do it. But I just think, and when I kayaked, I was competent, but to like the expert kayaker, I probably sucked. You know, in which there's always somebody better than you, so it doesn't bother me to say that. But I've got it. I've learned the hard way that no, I don't need to. There's stuff other people are doing that I don't need. I don't want to do that, and I don't know. I'm happy for people when they get out there and bag one like that. It felt kind of cool to be felt good to be the first one to run those big rapids, and some of our other buddies here close by have said, been thinking about it too. But for me, it's like a new run. It is class 3, class 4, class 5, or Yule Creek, which is, like I said, this was kind of, that's not something I do on a regular basis. It's to me just like I got it. It's like in my trophy case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels good. It's like I'm collecting them.
Yeah.
Runs.
That's a cool way to put it. It's I'm always just fascinated by like seeing Jeff and Dan running the Upper Middle Kings, and I boated with Jeff. I boated with him like 2 weeks ago here in California, and the guy is like, he's like so humble about stuff, and it's funny when I talk to guys like you or guys like Jeff or anybody in the Class 5 community. Like, it's really funny because I have this little joke. It's like it seems like when you talk to a lot of Class 3 boaters, that they get they'll be like, oh yeah, this run's really big, and they often get intimidated really easily because a lot of Class 3 boaters are pretty new boaters. And then you talk to Class 4 boaters, and they're like, yeah, I'm running big rapids and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm running all this big stuff. And then they get all excited, and they get going, and you feel people start getting that confidence level and getting better. But you talk to guys like you and guys like Jeff Compton, like, it's always the same thing. It's like, I wonder if you guys have even like been in a raft, because you're always like, oh yeah, I boated some stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, like what? Oh yeah, like I've been on a couple runs. I've been in a raft before. It's like, I don't even know if you boated before, man. Like, so it's kind of funny when you meet a Class 5 boater, you like, especially a Class 5 rafter. You can always tell they're like, oh yeah, I raft some stuff, and then that's like it. They're like so cryptic.
My days of making bold proclamations are probably gone. I'm just what I think I am, and I guess it's up to the eye of the beholder. But I hope that I'm just grateful for the runs I got, and to me, it's not like I don't really care. I ran Yule Creek. It's like one off. We'll do it once more. That's what me and Casey decided. It'd be nice, maybe one more time, go clean it up. I think the coolest thing that I learned traveling around, trying to make the movie last year, and doing a first descent and talking with other like-minded boaters like you about it is somebody goes and gets it and experiences it and reports back, hey, it's pretty normal, which I don't want to say Yule Creek was normal, but hey, it was pretty smooth. It went better than it looked. So I would do it again. There's no way I would do it again. I think that's really neat. And sometimes there's a few, not many, but there's a couple kayakers in this valley here that led the way down our first Gilman lap. And so to me, the neatest thing about going first is that you can tell someone else about it. Maybe you get to show them down there someday. But other than that, to me, it's all the same, Nice, like when you drink a lot of beer and now you got to drink 20. You used to could drink 6, and it wouldn't be sometimes like, man, it wouldn't be so bad if I could still get my same buzz off of doing a 5-mile Class 3 stretch. But the road goes on,
Mm-hmm. So the last thing I want to ask you, man, is what What do you want to see like for the next generation of boaters?
Like you said, when you were talking about your dad, I think we could do better as boaters, all of us advocating for river protections and picking up our trash better, just taking better care and just same what we've been talking all day about the reflections between boating and life. I hope that the next generation of humans and boaters both, we can be less divided. I wish kayakers and rafters would get along better and be more like one voice instead of two. It's like sometimes almost two separate communities, and I've never seen it like that. And I hope that they keep pushing it. I think the best thing about getting out and exploring is it brings a value to those places. If no one ever goes there and no one ever sees it and no one ever cares about it, what's the point of it being there? And Yule is a cool example of that because there's a marble quarry there, the town of Marble. There's marble everywhere. It's quite a sight to see. But just like me, especially being a California boater, that there's a lot of dams, there's a lot of mining, there's just a lot of yucky stuff happening to rivers. And I hope the next generation cares about that as much as we care about posting it on the gram, getting out on the Facebook. And I hope the next generation of boaters is bigger than this one. And I hope that they grow the one after them bigger. I feel like there's not enough of us.
I couldn't agree more, man. Well, Joel, I appreciate all the insight, man. It's love talking to you about this, and hopefully we'll hop on the river one of these days soon. But I think, if any of you guys are watching, want to connect with Joel and talk about boating or check out some Colorado rivers, again, post a link to his Instagram. You can check that out. Check out his Yule Creek descent. And man, it's just a pleasure talking to you and a pleasure sharing some of your time.
Likewise, man. The last thing I'll say is I made my first California boating trip in February to Boatsmith. I loved it. Hope to make some more California trips. I was born in Santa Ana, so it feels good to boat in your home state. And I'll hit you up next time. I really enjoyed talking to you too. And anytime I would do it again. And I would say to anybody out there, it's a pleasure and an honor to talk to any fellow boater. So hit me up.